shit!
Told you.
Hey guys, what's happening? Nihat here with Film Comics Explained, and today we're going to be exploring the Riot symbiote featured in Venom. In this video, we're going to dive into his origins in the comics, some of the differences to the film, and the range of powers he possessed in both. Appearing in Marvel Comics and the recent Venom film starring Tom Hardy as the famous anti-hero Venom and Riz Ahmed as Riot, the symbiote was essentially a sentient alien with an amorphous liquid form that required a host to bond with to ensure its survival. One of the main differences between the symbiote in the film and its counterpart in the comics is that, while the film explains that it was one of a handful of symbiotes captured and brought to Earth by the Life Foundation under the leadership of Carlton Drake, in the comics it was actually one of Venom's 5 children that were extracted from its body. It was also bonded to a man called Trevor Cole in the comics, who was previously a mercenary, who, after being experimented on with the symbiote by the Life Foundation, was transformed into Riot, as opposed to its bond with Drake as seen in the film. I have a pretty comprehensive video on Venom which covers his origins and his home planet known as Clintar, so if you want to have some more perspective on the symbiotes, I'll be leaving a link to it below.
Eyes, lungs, pancreas. So many snacks, so little time.
In the film, Riot represents the worst side of the symbiote and is depicted as an intensely sadistic maniac who seemed to enjoy nothing but destroying and killing everything in sight. This is in contrast to the protagonist and anti-hero Venom, who, while still quite vicious and never hesitating to eat people, still had standards and would avoid hurting innocents, especially after his interaction with Eddie Brock, who insisted they should only harm bad people. The Riot symbiote also seemed to have a very different relationship to its host compared to Venom, often switching between hosts and never caring much about Drake, while Venom clearly and genuinely showed affection towards Eddie and treated him more like a friend. Having said that, Riot and Drake were perfectly matched for each other, with both sharing a mutual contempt for humanity and the weaknesses they had, and both of them seeking to bring the symbiotes to Earth. I should, however, point out that Drake wanted to do this as a means of evolving humanity to the next level, while Riot simply wanted his kind to consume the planet Earth before moving on to the next food source. Despite their working relationship, the two of them actually had quite different personalities. Drake is a cold, calculating, sophisticated, and pragmatic genius whose corporate status and public persona was important to him achieving his goals, often compelling him to put on a facade when in the public eye, while Riot, much like his namesake, was a rampaging brute who had no time for pragmatism and was solely interested in immediate consequences. In the comics, the Sinister Life Foundation was an organization that sought to provide a comfortable life for their wealthy clients in the event of a mutually assured destruction fallout of the Cold War and the chaos that would follow. In order to protect the post-apocalyptic society they'd envisioned, the company's leader, Carlton Drake, sought out the creation of powerful guardians and captured Venom as a means of achieving this goal. After bringing Venom to their lab in the Mojave Desert, they began using a procedure to forcibly extract 5 Clintar seeds from Venom before hatching them in a lab. Then, too young to control a host, the blue-coloured infant was merged with Trevor Cole, a security officer of the Life Foundation that was comprised of police officers, soldiers, and mercenaries. Together, the Clintar and Cole became known as Riot, and they, along with the other 4 symbiotes, would become the Foundation's Guardian symbiotes. But unlike the other hosts, Trevor was extremely aggressive and unsympathetic, far worse than his siblings, with the obvious exception of Carnage, who paired with the psychotic Cletus Cassidy. Trevor's lack of control over the alien within him kept resulting in uncontrolled bouts of violence, leading to him and the other symbiotes kidnapping Eddie Brock in order to learn how to better control their powers. A confrontation with Spider-Man, who the 5 symbiotes had mutually hated, would see the group attacking the wall crawler, but before they could kill him, Eddie Brock was able to merge with the Venom symbiote once again and aid him, using a rapid metabolic accelerator to age the symbiotes and turn them into dust, seemingly killing them in the process. It would later be revealed that Riot and the other symbiotes had survived due to efforts by the Life Foundation, and they would once again kidnap Eddie Brock in a last-ditch effort to gain better control over their hosts. Unfortunately for the group, Eddie refused to aid them once again, due to his belief that they, like Carnage, had all become psychopathic killers. With the eventual deaths of Trevor and the other members that were host bodies to the symbiotes, the group would eventually merge together with a man known as Scott Washington to form a more powerful version of themselves called Hybrid.
There are more of us. Millions more. They will follow wherever I lead.
In the film, the Riot symbiote was one of the two main antagonists alongside Carlton Drake. In it, he is the destructive and sadistic leader of the symbiotes that bonds with Drake in order to accomplish their shared goal of bringing his race to Earth to bond with humanity. Although, unlike Drake, he was doing this in order to have the symbiotes destroy and devour the human race. Voiced by Riz Ahmed, this iteration of Riot was far stronger and vicious than its comic book counterpart, featuring traits that were more in line with the character Carnage. I'd like to point out that we actually get to see Cletus Cassidy, whom the Carnage symbiote would eventually merge with at the end of the film. And considering the enormous commercial success of Venom, I think that we'll be getting a sequel in the next few years featuring Carnage as the main antagonist.
Jesus! You can take this guy, right?
He has got shit you have never seen.
What does that mean? What are our chances?
Pretty much zero.
Riot is described by Venom as being the strongest and most brutal symbiote out of the group, and like the others, he had a whole heap of powers and abilities that aided in his conquest for domination. Possession. Being a symbiote, Riot could possess any living being upon physical contact with them, passing into their flesh and taking full control over their bodies with ease. Once inside the host, Riot was able to enhance their physical abilities to inhuman levels, allowing them to overpower other humans easily and enable them to heal from severe injuries within seconds. It could also suppress the mind of its hosts to fully control their bodies should they attempt to reject him. But if they accepted the pairing, both of them would begin a melding of minds, allowing them to work collectively. It's for this reason that, much like Venom, the abilities it could use while bonded with a host was fueled by their mutual compatibility. Superhuman strength. Riot can enhance the strength of its host to superhuman levels, to the point where they can smash through machinery and break through solid rock without any issues. This trait also extended to his stamina, enabling him to fight for extended periods of time, whilst also enabling him to survive in harmful areas like underwater or in toxic gases, where the symbiote would filter breathable air to the host. Superhuman speed and agility. The symbiote can also enhance the speed and agility of its host, allowing them to move several feet per second, scale buildings, as well as move on all fours with great speed. Regeneration. Additionally, the symbiote was also capable of healing injuries in the host at remarkable speed, and was able to cure illnesses that current human medical care was unable to tackle. Superhuman durability. Possessing absolute control over its mass and the mass of the host it is bonded with, Riot was highly resilient to physical injury, capable of withstanding assault from high-caliber bullets, blades, and attacks from superpowered individuals. Symbiotic detachment. Riot has the ability to fully emerge and partially detach itself from the body of its host, enveloping its host to form its own body that was both malleable yet durable. Construct creation. Its mastery over shapeshifting enabled it to create weapons from its body, including blades, flails, darts, spikes, and claws. This ability had developed to such an advanced extent compared to Venom that it could also detach and launch them at will without its loss in mass affecting its power. Biological assimilation. During its final fight with Venom, Riot is even able to momentarily absorb Venom and Eddie into its body, turning into a more powerful symbiote, which was only disrupted when a high-pitched frequency was used to weaken the symbiotes. In addition to this, it could also separate other symbiotes from their hosts through physical contact, as seen when it ripped Venom right out of the body of Eddie. Genetic memory. As I'd mentioned earlier, in the comics, Riot was the spawn of Venom, who itself had been bonded to Spider-Man in the past. Because the symbiote possessed a form of genetic memory, this parasitic inheritance also enabled it to copy the powers and abilities of other beings that interface with the genetic codes of its forefathers, which is how it was able to mimic many of Spider-Man's abilities, though this isn't seen in the film. With regards to its weaknesses, the only two that I'm aware of are its sensitivity to sonic and thermal attacks, which were used to disorientate and pacify Riot, if only for a limited period of time. Well, that's all for today, folks. A big thanks to all of you guys who requested we explore Riot. Don't forget to hit subscribe and click the notification icon to stay up to date on all my content, and if there's anything else you'd like to request, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Nihat here with Film and Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.
Sir?
Did you hear me? Initiate the launch.
T-minus 5 minutes to launch.